At 5:23 p.m., tension hung thick in the air as a U.S. Air Force F-16 from the 421st Fighter Squadron carved through the skies above Yemen's coastline. The pilot was flying top cover for a naval task force below, scanning the horizon during what seemed like just another routine patrol. But in the blink of an eye, everything was about to change. Hidden in the shadows near Houthis, Houthi forces had locked onto their target. Without warning, a surface-to-air missile screamed into the sky. This wasn't just any missile. It was an SA-6, capable of reaching speeds of 8 times the speed of sound with a 23-kilometer kill zone. The pilot had mere seconds to survive, but this F-16 wasn't going down without a fight. Mounted on its nose, the AN/APG-83 radar became the pilot's first lifeline. The advanced system detected the incoming SA-6 threat at an impressive 42 kilometers out. The pilot didn't hesitate. He threw the aircraft into a violent dive, plummeting from 30,000 feet down to 15,000 feet in seconds. This aggressive maneuver was critical because the SA-6 is a semi-active radar-guided missile, meaning Houthi ground. Stations had to continuously illuminate the F-16 with radar energy to guide the weapon to its target. Break that connection, and the missile goes blind. But the SA-6 held its lock. The situation was deteriorating fast. The F-16's radar, capable of tracking fighter-sized targets with a 5-square-meter radar cross-section at ranges up to 470 kilometers, suddenly lit up with more contacts. Additional SA-6 missiles were inbound. The pilot had just 18 seconds to react to this coordinated barrage. He pushed the aircraft into a series of brutal evasive maneuvers, hard turns, rapid climbs, erratic rolls. Every movement was designed to break the radar lock, but there was a problem. These aggressive turns wreaked havoc on the F-16's own radar effectiveness. While the system could track up to 20 targets simultaneously, its detection capability dropped to just 47% when looking 60 degrees off bore sight. In other words, during these wild maneuvers, the pilot was effectively flying blind to some of the incoming threats. That's when the next layer of defense kicked in. Look closely at the F-16's wing pylons. Those devices mounted there are critical. They're called the Thermopylon Integrated Dispensing Systems, or PIDS, and they weigh 19 kilograms each, reducing the aircraft's weapons payload by about 3%. But that trade-off is absolutely worth it. Each PIDS unit is equipped with 6 NAAR-60 V2 ultraviolet sensors, providing complete 360-degree spherical coverage, capable of detecting missile launches at ranges up to 10 kilometers. These systems can rapidly deploy infrared flares and radio frequency chaff to confuse incoming missiles. As the SA-6 missiles closed in, the PIDS units went to work. 12 MJU-50B flares erupted from the dispensers, creating brilliant decoys in the sky. Simultaneously, 24 RR-180 chaff bundles exploded outward, forming a half-kilometer-wide cloud of radar-reflective material designed to create false targets. But even this wasn't enough. The missiles maintained their lock, closing the distance with terrifying speed. The pilot had one final card to play. Mounted on the F-16's belly was an AN/ALQ-184 jamming pod, the last line of defense. This sophisticated electronic warfare system can jam threats across the 2 to 20 GHz frequency range using cutting-edge digital radio frequency memory technology. The SA-6's fire control radar operates between 6 and 8 GHz, putting it squarely in the jamming pod's wheelhouse. The moment the pilot activated it, powerful electronic interference flooded the airwaves, severing the missile's connection with their ground control stations. Without guidance, the SA-6's accuracy plummeted by 70%. The missiles transitioned into ballistic trajectories, flying harmlessly past the F-16 as the pilot breathed a sigh of relief. But the Houthis weren't finished. Just 44 minutes later, at 6:07 p.m., A U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone operating from Shabali Airfield in Djibouti was conducting reconnaissance about 50 miles northeast of Hoda. The unmanned aircraft was tracking Houthi supply convoys reinforcing enemy positions when frustrated gunners on the ground decided to try their luck again. They fired another SA-6 at the drone. Though less advanced than the F-16, the Reaper's Pandora missile warning system immediately detected the launch. Within 0.8 seconds, the drone's ANAL-47 countermeasure dispenser sprang into action. The Reaper's operator commanded it to climb above 15,000 feet, keeping the missiles out of the aircraft's 30-degree blind spots directly below its horizon. As the drone ascended, its countermeasure system launched 8 flares in just 4 seconds, creating a 300-square-meter chaff cloud designed to confuse the incoming threats. But these defensive systems aren't unlimited. The Reaper carries a maximum load of 60 MJU-60B flares and 120 RR-180 chaff bundles, enough for approximately 12 defensive engagements per sortie. Once the aircraft expends 75% of this inventory, it must abort the mission and return to base. To manage this precious resource, the Reaper's ALR-69 radar warning receiver continuously monitors frequencies from 0.5 to 20 GHz, detecting SA-6 radar emissions at ranges around 200 kilometers with 1 degree azimuth accuracy. This allows the system to respond to missile launches within 2 seconds. The drone operators deployed countermeasures with precision, avoiding a direct hit. But the Reaper didn't escape completely unscathed. After landing back at base, maintenance, crews discovered that several of the SA-6's 12,000 steel pellets had punctured the drone's right wing. Fortunately, repairs were completed quickly, and the aircraft was flying again shortly thereafter. These attacks may have seemed like just another day in a conflict zone, but they represented something far more significant. This was the first time the Houthis had fired on a manned U.S. aircraft in this conflict. How America would respond would set a new precedent in this intensifying confrontation. In the immediate aftermath, both U.S. Central Command and the White House were stunned by the brazen daylight attack on American forces. President Trump made his position clear. Nothing less than an immediate, devastating response would be acceptable. Within 8 hours, the guided missile destroyer USS Spruance received orders to move closer to the Yemeni coast. Once positioned in its launch box, the crew received encrypted firing orders from Central Command. But instead of the expected Tomahawk cruise missiles, the Navy opted for something different, something that would send a very clear message. Every Arleigh Burke-class destroyer carries a mixed loadout in its vertical launch system cells: Tomahawk land attack missiles, SM-2 air defense missiles, evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, anti-submarine rockets, and SM-6 missiles. Ballistic missile defense-capable ships also carry SM-3 interceptors. This diverse arsenal allows surface combatants to engage offensive and defensive threats across multiple domains. The Navy's choice of the SM-6 for this strike was deliberate and significant. The SM-6 is one of the Navy's most advanced air defense missiles, second only to the SM-3. Destroyers typically reserve these weapons for the most dangerous airborne threats because the missile delivers a 1,500-kilogram explosive warhead at an incredible 3.5 times the speed of sound. But in recent years, the Navy has quietly repurposed the SM-6 to also function as a ground strike weapon. While the Tomahawk has superior range at approximately 1,500 miles, the SM-6 is significantly faster. That speed makes it much harder to intercept and serves as an essential stopgap capability until the naval strike missile becomes fully operational. Despite having this surface attack capability for years, the Navy had never publicly employed the SM-6 in this role, until now. The Navy chose the SM-6 because their target was mobile. According to satellite imagery, the SA-6 launcher and its accompanying IS-91 radar system were still near Hoda. But with the launcher capable of traveling at 34 miles per hour, It could be hundreds of miles away by the time strike authorization came through. Time was absolutely critical. There wasn't a second to waste. After receiving the firing order, from Central Command, the Spruance's crew raced toward the launch basket in the southern Red Sea. Meanwhile, Combat Watch standers had less than 30 minutes to create, route, and approve a complex firing solution. Missiles don't simply fly in straight lines. That would make them easy targets for enemy air defenses. Instead, the crew programmed dozens of waypoints to guide the missiles to their first pre-planned position. From there, the classified mission library took over, directing the weapons toward their final target. At approximately 3:45 a.m. local time, 2 SM-6 missiles erupted from the vertical launch cells in a flash of fire and smoke. With several hundred miles to cover, the missiles would reach their target in roughly 6 minutes. Though the Houthis had constructed a robust air defense network throughout Yemen, it meant nothing against these hypersonic weapons. The SM-6s glided effortlessly through the darkness before slamming into the SA-6 launcher with devastating precision. Signals intelligence intercepts confirmed the site's complete destruction, along with the elimination of 8 Houthi operators. But America wasn't finished. Between 2014 and 2015, the Houthis captured 12 to 15 SA-6 launchers from the Yemeni government. Over the following decade, Iran substantially assisted them in upgrading their radars and installing modern seekers on the missiles. As a result, the Houthis now possessed an extensive stockpile of ordnance they'd proven willing to use against American aircraft. This situation could not be tolerated. After the February 20th strike that eliminated the individual launcher responsible for the attack, the Navy decided it was time to send a permanent message about why attacking U.S. aircraft is a catastrophic mistake. Beginning at 6 p.m. local time, the first of 4 waves of FA-18 Super Hornets roared off the deck of the USS Harry S. Truman. These aircraft were armed with weapons far more powerful than standard strike munitions. While a typical mission, like this, would call for 2,000-pound JDAMs or bunker-busting penetrators, the Navy went all out on this operation. The Super Hornets launched that night carried AGM-154, Joint Standoff Weapons, sophisticated air-to-surface missiles capable of reaching 117 to 130 kilometers when launched from high altitudes. Each JSO carried either 145 bomblets or 192 pounds of high explosives, all GPS-guided with precision accuracy. This was the long arm of American military power, and it was about to demonstrate its reach. Between 6 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. that night, wave after wave of FA-18s made attack runs on weapons storage bunkers near Sa'ana. And if that devastating aerial assault wasn't enough, the guided missile destroyer USS Gravely fired 6 Tomahawk cruise missiles at the smoldering rubble to ensure complete destruction. When the smoke cleared, the results were staggering. The United States had destroyed 14 Qaher M2 ballistic missiles, 3 additional SA-6 launchers, and 23 various anti-ship cruise missiles. The strike severely degraded the Houthis' ability to launch attacks against air and maritime targets. But while this operation inflicted massive damage on their arsenal, it didn't eliminate every threat. That battle will be fought another day. The message, however, was crystal clear. Attacking American aircraft comes with swift and overwhelming consequences.